Welcome back to Greels, Reels, everybody. Today's guest, I'm super excited. This is one of the guys that I met from the beginning at the University of Ottawa. He's a former wide receiver. I guess he's an alumni now. Jelani Paul, you Ottawa GGs, man.
Hey,
How you been?
pretty good. You?
Good, man. I can't complain. How's everything been treating you? I guess quarantine and all that, and just everyday life.
Well, I'm back to work already, so
Okay.
I guess I'm quarantining as best as I possibly can. And where I work, they take precautions pretty seriously, so I'm staying safe. Are you staying safe over there?
hmm Um, yeah, man. So I like I mentioned in the intro there, so how I got to know you is through actually just being a U Ottawa student and living in Res, and you were friends with some of the guys that I lived on the floor with. So, a fun fact for people who might be wondering with in terms of you and me and how I got to know you is that like you're actually one of the guys that I met before I even started working with the team.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I'll tell the story too because my first memory of you is I walked into the common room with like a bag of Doritos, and you looked at me and you're like, "Oh yeah, no man, like I don't eat chips because they're not healthy." And you said that to me while you were sat down drinking a 2 liter bottle of like Dr Pepper, like some kind of soda, and I was like, "Who is this man telling me that I can't eat chips?" But he sat here, drinking a 2 liter bottle of pop. But I mean, obviously you'd smoke me in any 40 or any vertical jump testing or any kind of physical ability anyway. So I guess, hey, maybe switching from chips and going to Dr. Pepper is the move. Is that your secret?
Honestly, Dr. Pepper has probably been the bane of my existence since I started drinking it. And it's for some reason I'll say no to every other thing, but then when it comes to soda or Dr. Pepper, I'll drink 2 liter bottles during one sitting. So I don't know why. First time I meet you, of course, I'm preaching that kind of stuff, but contradicting myself instantly. And I'm glad that's the first thing you remember because I feel like a lot of people remember me for the same kind of thing.
Oh no, man! It honestly it killed me. I honestly I couldn't care less, but I just always thought it was so ironic and funny. So that's your go-to, eh? Like you can say no to any other sweets and stuff like that, but when it comes to Dr. Pepper, that's your go-to, I guess, your kryptonite.
Absolutely. I think, okay, well, it's kind of tied with Reese's Pieces, but just because you have to be conscious of people who have peanut allergies, Dr. Pepper is kind of just falls into like the place where you just go to no matter who you're with.
Fair enough. So I guess I really want to talk about right from the start is just you and growing up in Ottawa and playing football there. Because I mean, your age group, man, there's some serious football talent within that age group. I mean, you got Tyrone, who was a CFL draft pick. Curly Gittens Jr. is also another guy in that region who went on played at Laurier, went to the CFL. You got yourself there, a whole bunch of other guys. Jackson Bennett's around that age as well. So I mean, yeah, like tell me about just growing up and playing high school ball and minor ball with literally all that talent around you.
So the sad part about it is when you say those names, like there's a lot of guys who didn't make it as far because of like other personal reasons, but pound for pound, I think we have a lot of talent coming out of Ottawa, and we still have a lot of talent coming out of Ottawa. If you look at some of the names coming up right now, who are like Ottawa born and raised. So I was lucky enough growing up to be surrounded by some of the best players that were in Ontario as a whole, and it even showed through their abilities through the high school level to the varsity level to the collegiate level. All of them were able to produce. Like I was on teams with like Curly, Tyrone, Jackson, many other names that you probably wouldn't know them now, but they really stood out on the field. Um, Even we gave like some of like the perennial powerhouses from around Ontario a run for their money in OVFL and also in OFSA, which is like a big league for Ontario. It's like the like when you're playing sports, that's the actual cup that you want to win, no matter what. So coming up, we were lucky enough to be coached by some really good coaches. Now, uh, some of their names kind of slip my mind, but they have helped to produce players that are down in the States right now. Neville Gallimore, who just got picked up. So like, there's a lot. You've always had talent in Ottawa. It's just people don't really look at Ottawa that much when it comes to big names. They're quick to go to Toronto, but Toronto has like way more people in it. So I think for the amount of people that we have in Ottawa, we were able to produce a lot of good talent. It starts at like a very young age we had like pretty good coaching and a lot of guys going to training with Gridiron, which was very big at the time. It still is very big and it's still producing crazy athletes. Now we look at it and we even have amazing track trainers like Limitless with Isaiah, who's doing a lot of work with the youth coming up right now, and then we even have Joey, who's reaching out to the youth with King Athletic over there at Titan. So like, Ottawa has a lot of resources for athletes, and it always like even when we had little resources, we still had a lot of resources. So we were always able to produce more and more good football talent, like no matter what.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just honestly named some names that I could come off the top of my head, and obviously I didn't even grow up in Ottawa, so I mean, yeah, like that,
Mhm.
the ones that I definitely forgot about, and there's hundreds more, and you even mentioned Neville Gallimore, and that, like everything that you said, you look at him, and it's like, the fact that yeah, like all these resources developed a guy who was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, right? Like that's huge. Like I mean, especially for Canadian football.
Yeah, exactly. You don't really see that often. Most players who end up going down to the States to go through collegiate ball end up coming back up here and getting drafted pretty high, uh, as far as I'm concerned, in the CFL. And but now you look at it, and we have a lot of Canadian players who don't have to go down to the States and are still getting drafted high. Players that you look at, like Dixon, who was like right on the cusp of being in the first round, and Curly, who got drafted pretty high. So like we have a lot of like solid Ottawa talent that's showing out.
Yeah, and so I guess is that kind of what made you want to pursue the varsity route for yourself? Was that like, yeah, I mean, just almost being like a product of nature, where it's like you got all these guys just striving for these milestones. Is that kind of where it came from, or was that a little bit more maybe personal driven, or were you big on academics? Yeah.
For me, I had to say like there was a period of time where I was stepping away from football, where I wasn't sure whether I wanted to continue with it anymore. And one of my friends came to me and said, "Come play some city ball," and I decided, heck, why not? And then I just from there on out, I just started taking it way more seriously. So from high school to city ball to varsity ball, like it just started being more serious. I started training with King Football over at the GGs, and then just from being in that atmosphere, being surrounded by a whole bunch of just super cool alumni vets. Obviously, you know a lot of them because I came in and they were in like first and second year, welcomed me in automatically, and I was just training with Joey. So when I got into that atmosphere, I kind of knew I'm like, yeah, I'm going to continue with this. This is fun. This is where I want to be.
And so I guess obviously it's make no wonder why I guess Uwata was the destination for you. If working out with Joey, I mean he does a fantastic job, and I mean when he was over in Calgary too, like working out with athletes and just almost like grooming all this talent for the Calgary Dinos, and he's replicated the same thing a lot with the GGs. Um, I found it's kind of slipped my mind, but I know with you, you told me a pretty funny recruitment story back with like Coach B, Jamie Barisi, and stuff like that, and how you found out that I guess you would be a GG and whatnot. I vaguely remember, but I definitely want you to kind of jog my memory and tell that story.
Okay, well, Coach B came to me. Well, this is like the first time I was around Coach B. Coach B came to me in the weight room, and I was lifting weights, and he walked up to me and he was just like standing behind me. I was like, okay. I I was like, this is kind of weird, but whatever. And then I finished my set and he looked at me. He was like, hey. I was like, hey. He's like, would you like to sign with us? It's like, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. Just asked me out of the blue. After that, uh, he totally forgot about me. Just, I guess, lapse of judgment. And me and Curly went to the dome one day, and we were doing Skelly, so it was just 5-on-5, and uh, I messed up like one or two plays, and Coach B looked over at Curly and he was like, "Why'd you bring this guy?" And I was like, "Okay." So then I start ramping up the intensity and I start making some plays, and he's like, "Okay, I get why you brought this guy." And at that moment, I was just like, "I'm gonna play for this guy." Like, I don't know why. I was just like, "This is probably the guy I'm gonna be playing with."
Yeah, no, it's funny. It's such a Coach B story in my opinion. Just like the awkward little interaction in the gym where it's just like, hey, like what's up? You wanna come play for us? Yeah. So I mean, obviously, I guess once you sign and get in, and just being the competitor that you are, um, first kind of steps and seasons with GG's football. How did that kind of go for you? Oh, I think we might have lost your connection. I think you're frozen right now. Okay, yeah. So Zoom wasn't cooperating with us today, so we ended up losing the video. So I called Jelani to finish up the last part of all this interview and what we're going to talk about. So I guess where we left off before we got cut off there was we were talking about just committing to the University of Ottawa. So the early years at UO, just kind of starting off at training camp and really finding I guess a groove in transitioning into university football. How was that for you?
I had a rough transition into university ball. Uh, what really stood out for me growing up and what helped me excel, like through sports, has always been my athleticism, and that's something that, like, I really prided myself in, just being like a natural athlete. When I got to the University of Ottawa, I realized very quickly that there's a lot of athletes all around me, and that's not going to be the only thing. Not to mention playbooks from the level that I was playing at right before were very small, very condensed, very easy to work through, and there was like a couple changes that we'd make weekly based on the team that we're playing, but nothing ever as big and as complicated as what you'd get from the GG's playbook at the time. So the transition going into my first camp was kind of rough. More intensity, more speed. The mental aspect of the game is just insane when you're switching into a playbook like what we had at the beginning. So it was kind of rough, but like it only got easier, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So I guess how would you really, if you were say an up and coming, high school football player, just asked you for some advice and how to make that transition a little bit easier, how you got through it and worked through the struggles of it, what would you say to them?
I would say to them that the most important part is effort, which is like in all things of life. You want to put as much effort in as possible, but you want to make sure that your effort's being put into the right places. It's always easy to put effort into the things that you already know, but it's always hard to put effort into things that aren't that easy for you. So if the playbook isn't that easy for you, you got to put effort into that. If the weight room isn't that easy for you, you got to put effort into that. I think one of my biggest mistakes was not putting enough effort into like working outside of the gym. The gym was probably like my favorite thing to do, and to keep up athletically, that's what I spent most of my time doing. So I would say just like come in knowing that it's going to be tough, have high expectations for yourself, have realistic expectations for yourself, and just grind, put effort into the places where you know you need to put effort into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's great advice. So, one thing that I was always fascinated with you is you're always in the top of every testing category. You're always right there in terms of vertical. Your vertical is incredible. I think it is the top one last season. I believe. I mean, I can't. I don't have the numbers here with me now. But like what? I guess like how? How do you jump that high? How do you run that fast? What made that work for you?
Um, okay, well, to begin with, when it comes to jumping, I was always a natural jumper, but then I have to really like bring this up. Like I can't just leave this as not a point that I'm like I have to state the point that I was working with Joey for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
A long time. In terms of jumping technique, in terms of jumping form, like I was working with Joey before I came to the GGs. So like I remember my first time testing, I probably jumped around a 10 coming into university for broad jump. But like Joey had seen me do that kind of stuff before, So like coming up, like if I stayed true to form and continued to work hard with things that Joey was putting us through, then after a while, like I was just consistently hitting very high numbers. So yes, part of it's gifted, and then the other part is just like consistent hard work.
Yeah, and you mentioned the technique as well too. So kind of making sure that I guess you get that down pat, and that's almost probably half the battle.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard for me to coach up other people, though, because like everyone's different. But like a lot of it was like coaching, a lot of it was making sure like I understood the right angle to get my body in, the right way to explode. It was like a lot of good coaching that I got mixed with like a lot of like lucky natural ability, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So, I mean, just cluing up your time at the University of Ottawa. You got in a few games throughout your career. You switched positions. Going from the defensive side to the back to offense. I guess now looking back on it all, how would you just kind of like what memories, things of joy, struggles, like whatever it may be, and just I guess wrapping up your like how would you wrap up your university career?
I feel like it's very rare for an athlete to leave university without any regrets. Like you rarely leave like or end a part of your career on your own terms. That's something that Coach B would always say to us. So like, but I think it was a good time for me to be leaving Ottawa based on the fact that like my time there was kind of up, and like it just so happened to be my last season there as well. I enjoyed the coaches, I enjoyed the team, I enjoyed all the friends that I made, of course, you included. So like I don't regret anything in terms of my time spent there. In terms of like playing aspects, there's obviously like that one play that got away, that one thing at camp that you could have done better. Like there's always going to be those things, but in terms of what I got out of it, which was like lifelong friendship, like a drive to continue moving forward no matter what kind of adversity comes my way, like I'm pretty happy with that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's I mean, speaking for myself, my own university experience, it's like as a student, it's like, yeah, you regret maybe some of the marks that you got, or like, studying for a little bit of a test. But the one thing like I don't regret is like, getting involved as much as I did, and, meeting as many incredible people as I have, like I said, like yourself included on that. And like, just doing all the extra things. So it's interesting, almost like, I guess when you look back on things, it's not necessarily, statistics or analytics or, academics and how exactly, well that you did and performed, but it's almost like, the relationships and experiences that you made along the way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So one thing, that I actually really wanted to talk to you about, and one was like the thing that I'm probably most excited to talk about is like what you've been up to now. And I mean, you've been diving into just art a little bit, and you know, you got a brand new Instagram page that you've just been, you know, I guess I assume it's a new passion for you. I've never really known you to, you know, put this stuff out before. So I guess like where did all this come from, and like how'd you learn? What yeah, like what was the driving force where you were like, you know what, this is stuff that I want to start doing now?
But like for me, art has always been something that I've been like fairly good at, fairly excelled at, and something that I spent a lot of time doing when I was growing up. When sports came into the picture, like arts definitely took a back seat. And I've always been like kind of self-conscious to show that side of me and show what I'm capable of doing when it comes to just being artistic. Which kind of sucked. Like the people who were close to me knew, like very, very close to me knew. My mom knew, my family members knew. But like it was never something that I'd just be like super duper open about. But then pandemic came and I was talking to Rachel, my girlfriend, and she was like, you should really start like being more open about this kind of stuff. Like you're good. And I took that and I was like, yeah, like I have like an art page that was like very, very like quiet at the time. And it was closed off just for like a couple of people to see. But then I decided, well, might as well make it open. And then I decided, might as well try out Adobe and Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop and see what I could do with that. And then from there, it's just been like a lot of practicing, trying to be as good as possible, very self-taught. I did have like a little bit of Photoshop background, but like relearning all of that and then being able to produce work that people actually want to see. It's been an interesting journey, to say the least. I've gotten some like really good reviews and people have been really receptive of my work. So I'm just going to continue with it.
Yeah. We're like, I guess, what are your hopes for it? Like, where do you hope that it kind of takes you?
Honestly, like right now, it's just kind of like a side hustle. I'm enjoying what I'm doing and I'm enjoying making people happy and it makes me happy. So as far as it wants to take me in terms of like, I don't think I could make a business out of it, to be honest with you. But I do think that if I can make enough people happy, there will be enough people wanting my work. So
yeah, no, man, that's awesome. I like, obviously, like I'm a big creative. I love seeing stuff like this. Like where exactly does the ideas and I guess brainstorming kind of come from? Like take me through your creative process, basically, like where you kind of start with like, okay, here's the idea, and then it gets molded into you know, a final product.
Well, before I even get into that, I just want to give you a big shout out because I believe you were one of like the first 2-3 people to hit me up, like letting me know that you really like my work and that you're like interested in what I'm doing. So that was like a big confidence boost as well, because you've been working basically like in the creation industry for how long now?
It's so like, yeah, it's been a minute. I guess I started when I was like 15. So yeah, no,
exactly.
I love hearing that. That thank you. That means a lot. But no, yeah, continue.
Yeah, so like for me, if I have an idea in my head, I need to put it on paper as fast as possible because I hate the small chance of losing a good idea or not being able to come back to it later on. So if I have something in my head, I get it out on paper immediately, whether it's a rough sketch or just like a quick outline of something that I just want to work on in the future. And then I have to be totally in the right like state of mind to be able to do the art. And my issue is I get like obsessive the same way that I would over sports. So I'll sit down and I'll get like in the right like mood to do it mentally and emotionally to put together a piece the same way that I would on like a testing day, which is an issue because once I'm done the piece, the same way once I'm done an event, my mind is still thinking and reassessing. So like, it's kind of an issue, but like that's kind of the way I feel most comfortable to do it. But that's just because of the atmosphere and the environment I've been in for the past like 15 years of my life.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand that a lot. I'm always like when I'm finished work and like I'm looking, I'm rewatching, and I'm evaluating. Like I don't think like I've ever put out a project where I'm like where I leave and I'm like, yeah, like there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's a good way to be, right? Because you're always seeking improvement and you're looking for opportunities to grow. And I think a big difference is obviously not like if it's to the point where it's like discouraging you to actually put out the work, then like you always kind of be careful there. But I mean, for the most part, like it's a good habit to have, right? Like you're just always seeking perfection and like actively knowing that you're not going to get there, but you want to come as close as you possibly can.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's why I find it easier, like the comparison between sports and art. I find it easier for the art because if I'm producing a piece for someone else, then I'm basing it off of their happiness that they get from the piece versus like if I'm producing a piece for myself, much like testing, you're like, I need to get this as good as possible, period.
Man, yeah, I love that. And before we kind of get into our last thing here, I actually, where can people find your art? Because I really want people to go check this out. Like, I think, it's definitely going to grow from here. You've got a lot of talent, so I really want people to, whoever's listening, to really go take a look at this when they finish up and get a chance.
Yeah. So, my page on Instagram is JArtPage, JAYARTPAGE, and I'm also going to be coming up with an Etsy and everything like that will be advertised on the page later on.
Awesome. That'll be exciting and definitely a great opportunity. And I think I would recommend to anybody who kind of needs illustrations and stuff like that to check them out, because I got a project too. I haven't told you anything about this, Jay, but like it's one of like my childhood projects that I'm trying to get into soon. We'll talk about it a little bit more after, but I definitely want your help doing something with that if you're down.
I very much am down without even hearing about it.
Yeah, no, I can't give away. Sorry to the podcast listeners, I can't give away the secret of what it is exactly right yet. But no, man. So thanks so much for coming on. This is basically the part of the podcast where the show is yours now. It's anything that you want to talk about, anything that you want to discuss. It could be a life lesson, story. Yeah, really, whatever. The show is 100% yours.
Awesome. Okay. So basically I spent like a lot of time during the quarantine up until even recently struggling with just how I deal with things on a personal level and how I deal with things for people around me. And I just want to say for everyone and anyone struggling with anything that they aren't alone and that there's always people who are willing to help. So don't be afraid to reach out to people when you're in need, like regardless of what it is. Many people struggle with many different things. I think one of the main triggers for me and many other people was the stuff going on with, I guess, the killing of George Floyd, which sparked a lot of negativity and positivity throughout North America, throughout the world even. So I think it was good for me to be able to connect with people on a level of like coming to me, being sympathetic, empathetic, and understanding the struggle that many people from different walks of life go through. So like, don't ever feel alone. There's a lot of people around you. And also, for those people of color who feel like it's hard to express what they're going through at any given time, continue to talk to others, continue to be open to other people, and continue to allow others to be open to you, because your biggest ally are the people around you, and you could be a big ally to other people as well.
Man, yeah, I love that. I couldn't agree more. I think that was a great message and a great spot to end this podcast on. Everybody listening, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Like I said, I hope you guys all go check out Jay's art page. It's going to be incredible. There's definitely some exciting things to come. Jelani, man, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll chat a little bit more there now. But I just wanted to say, guys, in the meantime, stay best kind.